It is no secret that the more knowledge that Claude has about a project that you're currently working on, the better it'll also perform. So what if I were to tell you that there's actually a way to make Claude really act as a employee, matter of fact, as a CEO, as an overseer, as a second brain is what a lot of people like to call it. And nearly, when you break it down, you can have something that just grows with you as you start to understand exactly what it is you're trying to build more and more. And so even though it's just at the start a couple of tiny dots, at the end, after a couple of days, a couple of weeks, maybe just after a couple of hours, you get yourself a completely crazy web of all these different connections, all these different knowledge points that make your life a whole lot easier. Now, I can't really zoom into my brain here too much, or my entire computer crashes because it's just got that much knowledge. But when you really break it down, the entire thing that this is based upon can actually be split in two. One is it's a certain skill that allows your Claude to learn more about whatever it is that you're working on. And two, Obsidian. Now, Obsidian is just this app that visualizes a lot of the files that you have. And so in this case here, all my hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of files are orchestrated in a certain manner that are very nice to see in a visual way right here. But for the sake of this video, I think it's actually a lot more important to think about how we were able to build such a big database in the first place, and how, if I am asking my Claude something right now about my project, or matter of fact, I don't even have to talk to my Claude anymore at all because it knows exactly what to build next. It knows exactly what it has to write to spin up more sub-agents to get more stuff done. I just got a full-on, like I said, CEO working for me, and this is basically the main start. And it's all surrounding the Grill Me skill. Now, it doesn't have to be this exact skill, but it's just derivations of this specific thing. So what that's all about is just one command, and it interviews you until the plan is airtight before Claude writes a single line. This does two things. One, it actually saves you a lot of tokens in the long run, because it just takes away so many misunderstandings and so many wasted tokens on the wrong output. And number two is you get yourself an airtight plan, so you and your Claude are actually on the same page, rather than just being two different brains working together on something that really don't know what the other wants and what the other is working on. So to quickly describe the problem, you hand Claude a half-baked plan, like build me a dashboard that shows my sales. It's vague and it has a lot of hidden choices. So what ends up happening most of the time is Claude guesses wrong or builds the entire wrong thing. What type of dashboard are we talking about? What is it supposed to showcase? What is it supposed to look like? Then the loop begins. Oh no, it's not like that. Rebuild it. Actually, I meant rebuild it again. Half your session is then gone trying to fix the assumptions that you never explained to your Claude. But what if the questions actually came first? And the easiest way to do that is with a skill similar to Grill Me. And in essence, what's really happening is not that difficult. It's just a relentless interview to sharpen or plan or design. I said that sentence kind of weird, but I think you all get it. A relentless interview to sharpen a plan or design one. And if you guys, by the way, want a full-on guide on how to set this up, make sure you join our free school, which is linked down below. And if you go in here to the classroom, or perhaps just look around in there, you'll also find a lot of my free guides. So anyway, Claude flips into interviewer mode and walks your plan apart, one question at a time, until every fuzzy decision is nailed down. So an example conversation, I'll show you a real one in just a second, but let's just kind of cover the basics here. Claude would ask you, should the dashboard pull live data or nightly report? I'd go live for a sales view. Do you agree? And you say, yeah, you know what? That's a good call. Okay, then which metric leads, revenue or units? Most sales dashboard leads with revenue. Do you agree with that? And then again, you can respond saying yes or no. Generally speaking, I personally like it very much so if Claude gives its own recommendations on the matter, but then I can still decide to pick whatever I think is more important. It's just to make sure it's not that difficult of a thing if I just kind of want to click through. Now, if we want to break down the entire skill, I just showed you the GitHub, but really, when you break it down, it's this. Interview me relentlessly about every aspect of this plan. I just smashed my freaking camera until we reach a shared understanding. Walk down each branch of the design tree, resolving dependencies one by one. For each question, give a recommended answer. Ask the questions one at a time, and if a question can be answered by exploring the code base, explore it instead. So, no code, no config, just clear instructions, saved ones that you can summon on any project forever, because it's super simple, and that's also what a lot of skills should actually be like. Something extremely simple that can easily be understood, that can optimize your workflow. So, 4 small rules, 1 big effect. And this is basically the breakdown of the skill. 1 question at a time, give a recommendation, make sure you walk through everything, and check if you already know the answer. And if you still didn't fully understand why we would have to use it, let me give you a real practical example before I move over into Claude, or really ChatGPT for that matter, to give the breakdown. But here we go. The thinking happens before the building. So without using this skill, without using a second brain in the matter, without it, you build something, which is probably going to be wrong. You have to rebuild, which after that is still probably going to be off. So you rebuild again, and then maybe it's right by the session's end, but that was a lot of work. But with it, you're doing a good session of just going through everything. And really, whenever I start new projects, or if I now wanted to start using a new AI model, let's say a better one just came out, I let it go through sometimes hundreds of questions just so we're both on the same page. If I'm starting a new project where every single mistake could cost me tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or maybe eventually millions of dollars, I want to make sure that whenever Claude gives me any sort of recommendation, it gets my thinking process. And that does not have to be on too much of a personal level. If you don't want your AI to be too deeply involved with your person, it could purely be on a business or from a business perspective that it just knows all the ins and outs of what your company may want to achieve. And you can start this out by, if we just head over to any Claude session, we type in /grillme about, let's just say, for example, my new business venture. I'm not being able to type so well while also taking care of the microphone, but you get it. My new business venture. Now, it has no idea what business venture because it didn't specify. And that's the thing, right? We'll eventually notice by even trying to type our prompt out already that we need a certain subject that it needs to become the expert on. So, I mean, even though the breakdown really is quite simple, you can try this in the next 60 seconds. You don't actually have to save it as a skill because it's just that simple, but you could. Save those 5 lines as a skill, just copy paste them, and before any real new project, drop your rough idea, type grill me, and answer honestly. And just to give one example, here's what I could come up with over the past couple of seconds. I want to start a new company operating massive phone rigs. I just thought about it because I've got a lot of phones laying down here. Grill me about the subject until you know exactly what I want. So it says there, let's start at the root of the decision tree. Before hardware, location, or cost and everything, what are you even talking about, right? And so what I would normally do right now is I'd open this chat box, start dictating, because I have a little button on my mouse that allows me to dictate back to the AI so I don't have to just type in all the way. But I just start explaining my story of what I think we should do. This could be a mega prompt. It can literally be a freaking half book full. I'm just saying it could be, for example, you dictating for 5 freaking minutes, be thousands upon thousands of words. That's completely fine because it's actually a lot cheaper to do a lot in one message rather than split it up into many different ones. But then after that first one, let's just say that you give one sort of outlook. What I would actually personally do after Claude has saved that, I'd actually open up a new session with this context now in mind and ask it to grill me again. Or perhaps if you really think the context fully is necessary still, I would just tell it again in the same chat that we're not, if it does not recommend, and we can actually do a little test session here, but if it does not recommend to ask you more questions, you should ask it again. Example here. After giving it a little bit more info, it came up with a lot more questions and a couple of conclusions, after which I told it, hey, you know what, just grill me more about the subject, just ask me whatever it is you need to know to take over the world, let's say. And then it noted that basically, since you didn't push anything back, I'll just take my own recommendations and move on further. Next couple of questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And so essentially what we're doing is, even though both you and I are using the exact same model, if I now ask a question about what do you think is wise to do for this or that business, we'll have a completely different output. Matter of fact, my output will be significantly better for the subject. And so this was just on the topic of one specific business. If you're comfortable with this, you could also literally do this to have Claude or ChatGPT or any AI really act as a secondary brain. If you go through this grilling session and you tell it, hey, ask me 500 questions about my current situation, about my goals, about my life, about my coding, about my projects, about my money, about anything you think is wise, it'll come up with a ton of really cool, really insightful, and really critical questions that will most likely also allow Claude to give you better outputs. And that's the funniest thing. If now I go to a fresh Claude session, if I go to a Claude chat and I ask it something, it's freaking stupid. If I ask my Claude or my ChatGPT, the one I've really properly trained, the one that's got all my knowledge inside of it, it knows exactly what to get done. And a really good example of that is if I go into a new Claude chat on a new computer and ask it to just build out a whole infrastructure for a new project I want to build, it has no idea where to start. But with my Claude, with the one I've been able to build, with the one I've gone through all these questions for, this is a bad example because we didn't do too much, but it would now have all the knowledge about what exactly I want to do for my new phone rig. So if I then want to actually start it, it'll know exactly what to get done. Or based upon my phone rig experience, for example, maybe it now knows which companies I already own. Maybe it now knows which companies I want to purchase. Maybe it now knows where I live and where I want these things to be located. Maybe it knows all my preferences for what type of servers I want or what type of tools I'd like to use, meaning my outputs will be better. Anyway, just one of the most beautiful skills, super simple, but can really just change your output by such a magical amount, by such a magical number. It's something that I really think every single person should at least take a little bit of time to acknowledge and work with, because if you've never done it, you'll be surprised at just how beautiful it is. And this can be like that starting point that gets you more and more into working with AI full time, perhaps. Just check it out. Let me know how you like it. And make sure you press that like button if you enjoyed it. And if you want to, you can join our free school, which is linked down below so you can learn more about AI. And yeah, that's about it.